It's always important to stay on top of things on the waiver wire and grab the hot players before your league mates do. We're going to beat the breakout and grab these players who could be hot waiver wire ads before anybody else is even on them. Now, if you spent a very early pick on ace Spencer Strider in Atlanta, you know there's no replacing him. What we know right now is the best case scenario. He's out a few weeks and he comes back and everything is great. The worst case, I don't even want to go there. But he's on the IL, whether it's a few weeks or a year. Strider gone, you're going to have to try to fill that hole. And Atlanta, of course, has to fill that hole in their rotation. So it looks like they might look to Dylan Dodd. In fact, I'm seeing he might even be scheduled to start this Wednesday against the Mets. Now we know the Braves always have a ton of talented young arms in their system. There's several guys that they could call from AAA, Gwinnett, to fill that role, but it looks like Dodd's getting the nod, and here's why. Early in this minor league season, his first 11 and 2/3 innings, he's only given up 2 earned runs, and he struck out 12. Only concern is that he's walked 7 batters, which is really unusual because the thing about Dodd is that command is kind of his thing. Fangraphs has him graded out as 70 for command. He's just not supposed to be somebody who walks guys. So I'm going to take a grain of salt here, his early walk rate, and he'll get enough strikeouts to be viable for fantasy. Obviously, wins are always a possibility in Atlanta. And I hate to say it, but the way things are going, one of the best things about Dodd is he's not a hard thrower. His fastball tops at like 92. Hey, maybe that'll just make him last longer. With any young pitcher, you know you want to kind of play it slow. This, just like pretty much all the players I'm going to mention in this video, are going to be stashes, guys to wait and see. But Dodd has a great opportunity in front of him, and they selected him in front of other players like AJ Smith-Shawver, Bryce Elder, who you may remember made an impact last year, or Darius Vines. Dodd's going to get his shot, and I think it's the time to stash him now because you know if a Braves pitcher does flash at the major league level, everyone's going to be all over him. Now, this next player, I feel very confident, is going to be in the starting lineup as soon as he's healed up. That's Vaughn Grissom. We know Vaughn Grissom from his days in Atlanta. Never got the shot really to be an everyday player, mainly because of his defense. Well, now Boston is going to be happy to have him back. The only reason he wasn't in the starting lineup opening day is because he managed to pull a hamstring right before the season started. Well, now with Trevor Story out, maybe the rest of this year, they need Grissom in a bad way. I mentioned Grissom a couple of times before the season in my draft videos as one of my favorite sleepers. This guy, even in his limited experience, 236 major league plate appearances, has hit 287, 5 home runs, 5 steals. He can do a little bit of everything. I have a good feeling that when he does get back, he's going to be plugged in right away at second base because they need him there, or he can play shortstop still. There's openings in both sides at this case. Emmanuel Valdez has been holding on the fort right now at second base. He's fine. Grissom's clearly an upgrade at short. They're making do with Pablo Reyes and David Hamilton. No offense, but neither have the pedigree of Grissom or his type of tool set. Wherever he plays, Grissom's going to be an everyday player, and I have a feeling that based on this lineup, the way it's currently constructed, he could hit as high as 6th. That means Grissom will have chance to drive in some runs. Now, the only thing here is that we don't really know when Grissom's going to be ready. It could be as late as the end of April. We're just going to have to be patient. But again, I would rather stash him now, especially if you do happen to have an IL spot free. Grab him now and keep him before everyone else starts picking him up. That's how it works. If you love watching baseball and playing fantasy baseball, you probably love playing MLB The Show on PlayStation, Xbox, or Switch. Well, the best place to get those stubs without paying full price is MMOAH.com. On top of their already discounted price, you get an extra 5% off by using code Endgame. You can build your perfect Diamond Dynasty even faster by clicking the link in the description below and using our promo code. Now with the Yankees' Austin Wells, it really hasn't been a lack of opportunity or playing time. It's been a lack of production. Wells currently hitting 150, no home runs, and just 1 RBI. Now he is splitting time, but he's had several starts, just hasn't happened for him yet. But this is another case where the stats can be a little deceiving because he could come around. He should be doing better. Look, expected stats aren't perfect. They aren't everything. But his XBA far superior at 283, and his expected slugging is actually really good at 584. Somehow, he's hit 3 barreled balls, but doesn't have a single extra base hit. And let's talk plate discipline again. He's got 5 walks as opposed to only 3 strikeouts. So for a hitter who's seeing the ball well, hitting the ball hard, how is it that nothing is falling for him? Well, batted ball luck can be a funny thing. You figure it's got to turn around eventually. The Yankees will continue to run him out there at least every other game. But look, let's face it, Jose Trevino is just in there for his defense, his veteran leadership. Wells is a superior offensive threat. Even if Wells doesn't ever become an everyday catcher, he's got a lot more offensive upside, not just than Trevino, but a lot of catchers that are out there. You're probably not stashing him unless you're either in a keeper league or a 2-catcher league, in which case, look, in a league where you have to start 2 catchers, you can never have enough catchers on your bench. I got Wells stashed in 2 leagues right now, and I'm just waiting for the breakout to happen. Now back to pitching. Let's look to Chicago, where a number of injuries have left them really thin in the rotation early. We know Justin Steele out probably till May. Jameson Taillon hasn't even pitched yet this year. He's still in the IL with back issues. Not sure when he's going to return. And Caleb Killian, another promising young pitcher, also on the IL. I would like to talk about one of their higher-end prospects, Cade Horton. Some consider him the top prospect for the Cubs, but I just don't think he's ready yet. He's only 22. He's pitching in Double-A, doesn't have enough experience. What did they do as soon as those injuries happened? They turned to Ben Brown. So you look at how he's done so far, you immediately want to just turn away. In 5 2/3, he's given up 7 runs and 8 hits. But of course, we dig deeper than just the surface stats. His very first outing of the season and his major league career got knocked around by the Rangers. Then his second appearance, he went 4 pretty strong innings against Colorado, only gave up 1 run. He also struck out 5, only walking 1 over those 4 innings. It's so easy for pitchers' ratios to become inflated with 1 bad outing in April, and then it doesn't seem to recover, but we know if you didn't have him on your roster at that time, it didn't hurt you. Ben Brown is a talented young pitcher. That's why they have him up there, and he's probably going to fill the gap to some extent. Maybe not as a starter per se, but what we saw is that he was a follower after Luke Little this past outing. The appeal here is that he definitely has strikeout stuff. He's mainly a fastball slider guy with an occasional curve. Honestly, he profiles more as a late inning pitcher to me, but if the Cubs are using him as a starter and he can be effective, then hey, he's got fantasy value. All right, and then when I say this name, again, just listen to what comes next. Jackson Holliday should be rostered in most competitive leagues, but he's not. Right now on Yahoo, he's 76% rostered. On ESPN, 43%. Some leagues don't use NA spots where you can't put a minor league player in there. Some leagues have shorter benches where you just can't afford to sit and wait on a guy who's not giving you stats. Whatever the case is, this is your public service announcement, a reminder to go out and check if a high-end prospect like Jackson Holliday, or also to some extent maybe a Junior Caminero who's not going to come up probably real soon, but if those guys are available and you can stash them, you can get away with it, you do it. It was massively disappointing to not see Holiday on the opening day roster, but honestly, the way he's hitting, the way that whole Norfolk team is hitting, it can't be too far off. I mean, honestly, May 1st, probably the latest. And even if it's longer, it will still be worth it. So go out and check. Trust me, you might be surprised if you play in multiple leagues especially. Check every league you're in, search the name Holiday. If he's available, grab him now. It's also a good time to remind you all that you should always check your league's transactions because you would be surprised how many players get rage dropped after 1 week, even some big name players. I already told you some players not to drop based on 1 week of action. So if you didn't check that out yet, it's right here.